Tick season is nearing, and the tiny parasites are thriving in southern Ontario. They're appearing earlier than normal and sticking around longer. Now is the time to start protecting yourself, as their bites can cause some serious health problems. Here's a story of awareness from one woman whose tick bite led to years of health setbacks.
It was extraordinarily long time to not have a diagnosis and to just be progressively getting worse and worse.
For 52-year-old glass artist Jennifer Kelly, experimenting with glass artwork and creating designs using a combination of textures ignites her soul. Unfortunately, her passion was put on pause in March of 2019 after returning from a teaching trip to Bristol, England.
I went from March 2019 to January 2021 with symptoms that just kept flaring up, and it was debilitating. I wasn't able to work. Tons and tons of pain in my arms and legs and my hands. I got super loud tinnitus in my right ear.
The Ottawa resident was prescribed some antibiotics, but doctors didn't have an answer as to what was wrong. Out of desperation, Kelly did every test imaginable, including testing for Lyme disease, a disease that is transmitted to humans through the bite of infected black-legged ticks or deer ticks, which are most active from March to mid-May and from mid-August to November.
So I discovered that even people who are bitten in Canada often send their blood to a lab called Armin Labs in Germany. I sent it off, and sure enough, it came back positive.
Unfortunately, her positive test only caused more frustration since so much time had passed, and the disease had begun to affect her central nervous system and was now considered to be neurological Lyme disease, which can cause numbness, pain, weakness throughout the body. Kelly's story mirrors the thousands of Canadians who report a Lyme disease infection each year, with government data pointing to between 1,500 and 2,100 new cases annually over the past decade.
So Jennifer, what does your road to recovery look like? Do you still have Lyme disease?
I don't. I was able to receive IV antibiotics. It got me 85% better, but unfortunately, my central nervous system has been so damaged.
Kelly says she's speaking up in hopes of helping others prevent the disease from going undiagnosed for so long, especially now as the snow melts and tick season gets underway across Ontario and other parts of the country.
It's obviously important for you to share your story and bring awareness to the subject. Why are you so passionate in telling your story?
Because although I appreciate that everyone has to advocate for themselves when it comes to their personal health, there's still so much misinformation in the community about Lyme disease. And there were so many opportunities for me to get a treatment, even to the point of finding out what it was, and then the doctors saying that they couldn't prescribe what I needed.
Kelly is amongst many Canadians who feel they have been let down by the medical system after contracting Lyme disease, even though the disease has been identified and researched since at least the 1980s. Though experts suggest that's not a long time in terms of developing effective testing and medical therapies.
What are some of the controversies around Lyme disease and tick bites right now?
There's a couple of issues. One is that Lyme disease is a relatively new disease in Canada. And so a lot of healthcare practitioners weren't trained to identify Lyme disease.
Ticks are small arachnids that live by feeding on the blood of animals and humans. They can cause allergic reactions, pass on disease, and in some extreme cases can even be deadly. Warmer winters have allowed ticks and the pathogens they often carry to flourish in ways they never did before, according to Robert Kaludi, who works as an associate professor in the biology department at Queen's University. Therefore, if you're planning a family hike in a wooded, grassy area, a beach, or along a coastal area anytime between now and November, it's a good idea to take extra precautions.
I have 2 young kids. We like to go for hikes, and some of the precautions we take is we always stay on the path. We try not to let the kids run off into the leaf litter, which is where a lot of the ticks like to hang out. If we do have to go into that kind of environment, for example, if you're into hunting or you just like to go off the path, then You should do things like tuck your pants into your socks and spray your clothes down with a strong arachnicide, something like DEET.
According to the Public Health Agency of Canada, 1,615 human cases of Lyme disease have been reported for 2020, and 2,851 cases have been reported for 2021. With the southern areas of British Columbia, Manitoba, New Brunswick, Ontario, and Quebec as the primary locations where infected ticks are most commonly found in the country. If you fall victim to a tick bite, be sure to extract it using tweezers and save it to get tested.
Especially if you see any kind of a rash around the bite, that's a pretty good indication that you received a Borrelia infection that should be treated right away.
Part of the problem, Kaludi says, is symptoms of Lyme disease can vary from mild to moderate to severe and include everything from headaches, fibromyalgia, and aches and pains. Kaludi is part of a team of researchers at Queen's University who are currently examining the link between tick bites and long-term disease to help eliminate misdiagnoses. They're inviting people with Lyme disease to share their stories at mylyme.ca.
They fill out a survey and then they can opt into an ongoing survey, which includes providing information on their symptoms over time, but then also receiving feedback on that information that might help them make sense of the symptoms that they're experiencing.
As for Kelly, she's moving upwards and onwards, but now with a lot more caution.
Are you, I guess, like overly cautious now every time you leave your house and get out in nature?
Short answer, yes. Yes, I am. I now have spray and impregnated clothing that's tick repellent. So that's really helpful. And of course, our dog has been vaccinated against Lyme disease.
For Inside the Story, I'm Nikki Anastasakis.